One of the things that we need to do, and that in specific, the Libertarian Party of Wisconsin, some of its candidates and people involved that have recognized that we need to not just sit back and make the statement that it's okay for a business owner to put something to exclude people from his business. We maybe believe that to be true, but we can't do that and then not be the first ones out the door to protest that action as being a bad idea. We need to be activists. We need to look. We need to. If we're going to point out the marketplace as a way to correct things, to point bigots out or to point whoever out and say we shouldn't spend our dollars there, we shouldn't shop there. We need to be on that side of it as well, and that's how we get our message out as one that respects individuals, as humans, as people. That's what we believe. It's a positive message. The ways that we get portrayed, as you rightly said, Patrick, are often negative. But we, as libertarians, need to take action to go out there and to show people that we really mean that all people are created equal and that all people have equal rights and that we respect the 14th Amendment applies universally to everybody. We'll be back in about 2 minutes again. You're listening to the Free People Show at freepeopleshow.com. When we get back, Patrick's going to weigh in on what I just said, I'm sure. Would you like to experience being one of the free people who produce their own meat and eggs? PurelyPoultry.com has the chickens and supplies and other poultry you need to raise poultry. Would you like to pets who produce eggs you can barter with? A swan on your pond to make your home more attractive? How about some pheasants and quail in your woods to shoot and or just enjoy? If so, check out PurelyPoultry.com.
Burger House 41 is open at 1860 West Mason Street in Green Bay. You're invited to indulge in one of life's simplest pleasures, a great burger. We're grilling up 15 fresh signature burgers and have over 30 craft beers for the perfect pairing. Experience Wisconsin's best flavors, including white cheddar cheese curds.
That sounds good.
Yeah, right
absolutely.
about now. In like 10 minutes. Yeah. Let's find some.
I know a place that's got some cheese curds.
Burger House 41?
Yeah, right.
That's a couple hours away. Back on track, Ron.
Yeah, so they got white cheddar cheese curds.
Yeah.
A variety of specialty sandwiches, milkshakes, and gourmet frozen custard. Burger House 41 at 1860 West Mason is open at 11 a.m. daily. Taste Wisconsin. Taste amazing.
6%? 7%? That's a lot of money. I might as well just do it myself. Well, that might be true, if a lot of that money you're paying a real estate broker is going toward outdated methods, unnecessary fancy offices, and overpaying executives for a lifetime of service. But you don't need to go that route. Silver Compass Realty is a full-service real estate brokerage serving all of South Central Wisconsin, and the commission is negotiable. Silver Compass will explain exactly what they're going to do to help you buy or sell a home, how that will help you reach your goals, and stand right beside you every step of the way. They want to be your broker, your expert, even when you're not in the middle of a transaction. Silver Compass Realty, helping you find your way home. Contact them today at silvercompassrealty.com or call 608-361-8608. Silver Compass Realty, helping you find your way home. And we're back. Free People Show, episode 34. Co-hosts Ron DePau, Patrick Baird, and your humble host, Phil Anderson. Engineer Samuel Anderson is present tonight. He's not off gallivanting the country and trolling people around the United States as he was accused of being a troll earlier today online. We're back to our discussion of government, the internet, and free speech, and we poked around a lot of the issues, and as Patrick and I talked about during the break, while we're taking sort of, and we didn't really plan on this, but sort of opposing sides, I guess, one way of looking at this particular situation, we both agree, and that's why we're talking about it, that's why it's such a valuable topic, is that there's not really easy answers in terms of where rights and where public and private space collide, even among libertarians, where we like to think that we've got the answers to things and that we've got a very rational, practical, traditional, time-tested answer to things. But in this particular case, because there's such a blending and a blur between public and private space, especially online, and how the government's involved in everything, and private businesses, in some cases, welcome that involvement, especially with internet providers. That this is not an easy question to answer.
Well, you were talking about we're talking about the issue of racial discrimination, and there's, like I said, I've listened to the argument from other libertarians saying how private business owners should be allowed to discriminate against African Americans or whoever, Jews, homosexuals, whatever, in their businesses. And and the argument goes, well, the free market will address that because nobody will patronize their businesses, they'll be boycotted, and they'll lose their businesses, or so on. That's the answer to that issue and that problem. But let me just throw a little more cold water of reality on there. If libertarians, or God forbid the Libertarian Party, puts forward that argument publicly, we can pretty much kiss just about every African American voter in America goodbye. And I totally don't blame African Americans for looking at someone or an organization who would make that sort of an argument and go, no thanks. And that's something that I think that a lot of libertarians don't think about enough, is they don't try to put themselves in other people's shoes and try to understand. Now, it's one thing to be one of these libertarians that sits on Facebook and bitches about the Libertarian Party, and I've already gone on several rants about that previously. But if we're in the Libertarian Party and we want the party to succeed and grow, and we want to try to reach as many people as we can with our message, and try to get people to understand how valuable liberty can be, we can't adopt messages that, no matter how well crafted the rest of our message is, if the first thing that comes out of our mouth is we're in favor of allowing discrimination, well, we are going to lose people at that point, and it doesn't matter what we say after that.
Well, we don't say it that way. I mean, that's an argument. That's something we've invented for the purposes of this argument.
That argument being made, we've lost them. Period.
Change the message.
You're not going to win them over with part two of your argument, because they're never going to hear part two of your argument.
Well, I start with part one, saying that we believe that everyone has the right to, that all people are created equal, and everyone has the right, and this is how we solve this problem.
They're not going to care,
because
practically.
I don't know if that's true, and I think I have a question for you. I guess for both of you, is the Libertarian Party libertarian if we forsake the idea of those property rights? Or do we see, or we just become something else?
No,
because what you're talking about is changing a very foundational libertarian belief, classical liberal belief that's gone on since at least the 17th century. Locke wrote about property rights in the same way, for the purposes of getting votes. And I have run for office twice, and I'm running again. I like getting votes. I don't like wasting my time running for office, but I also am motivated to do so, to be involved in the party and in campaigns, because I believe this to be true, and true forever. So if I have to, or I'm expected to, or asked to, or in order to get votes, to mitigate that message into something that I don't believe is true anymore, and I think based on the history of the thought that's behind the Libertarian Party, it's demonstrable that that doesn't coincide. Then what's the point? Then we're just a third. And I know you're not taking it this far, but if that thinking overtakes the party, where we'll mitigate our message and say things that aren't true, for fear of insulting people and driving people away. I mean, I understand the problem of that, but at the same time, we have to tell the truth.
But is that really the truth? Is it really the truth that it's okay for people to put a sign in their window saying you can't come into my restaurant?
Is it okay is too vague of a question. Is it their right to do so? Yes. Should they? No. Can we fight against that? No. Will we fight against that?
I think
yes.
It's illegal in this country.
Well, that doesn't mean... that doesn't speak to it, whether they have the right to do it or not. There are rights.
We have the 14th Amendment.
They have a legalized rights.
Constitutional protection that you're not allowed...
under the law. The 14th Amendment is under the law.
And we settled that issue in the 1960s. We settled the issue of interstate commerce. And yes, if you have a bakery shop on Main Street, that's not interstate commerce. But the basic principle was pretty much settled and affirmed at that time. That was the victory of the Civil Rights Movement, to say, look, you cannot have a public business that discriminates based on race. Now, it's a much more stickier argument when we get down to the bake the cake argument. But, I come at it from a libertarian perspective of saying that, as I said before, that there's religious issues involved. There's no religious issue in being a racist. There's nothing in the Bible that says thou shalt divide the world into good and bad colors. That's not biblical.
Right.
So
of course.
So all I'm trying to get the message across, and if I can loop back to the basic point we were making before, one thing that frustrates me about a lot of libertarians is one thing I learned a long time ago: know who your enemies are, know where the danger lies. And right now, our enemy is the progressives. I've decided, by the way, I'm not using the word liberal anymore for they're progressives.
Yeah, they've thrown that away.
They're going back to the days of the Nazi racist progressives here
Eugenics.
in Wisconsin,
Yep.
and Margaret Sanger and all that type.
Mm-hmm.
I want them to own the full meaning of that label, progressive, because they are a hateful, irrational bunch of bigots. And liberal is a word that was a good word at one point in the history of America, and I don't think they deserve that word anymore. We got to understand. All I'm trying to do with this discussion is try to get people to think about it. Okay, what is really could happen to us as libertarians, and I think we need to think about that.
I think, one thing that we talked about a few minutes earlier, I think maybe as libertarians, I think you make a good point, Patrick. Maybe we should try to change the context of the conversation. You talked about when we bring up this conversation, it's not going to sell anything to the black community. So let's change it so that in a way that they understand. Currently, as a black person in the community under the United States government, you are committed, a lot of racial injustices, through different organizations, through different laws, things like that. This is what you currently have to face under the Libertarian Society. Yeah, it's not like we're going to set you up on a pedestal, but at least we'll give you the opportunity to be free and to choose your own society and to choose how you want to live. It's better than what you have now.
That's the conversation we need to have. Not we don't need to go to them and talk to them about principles of property ownership.
Well, and
we need to have that conversation.
And there are some really important issues where we are the only party, really, that's taking seriously the damage that's been inflicted on the black community by the government. The war on drugs,
yes,
social
absolutely.
programs. I just met last week with a woman in Milwaukee named Shanielle McLeod, who is struggling to be the executive director of a poorly funded organization called Clean Slate Milwaukee, where after people have been, mainly people of color, it's about 90% people of color that go through their program, people that have been wrongly, convicted of crimes that shouldn't be crimes, suffered minimum sentencing,
right,
which we should get rid of as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
They go into the prison population. They're separated from their families. Their families are without. They become incoherent. They become emasculated when they come back out because they have a difficulty time finding a job and being even on a lease. All the things, all these problems that this creates. This is how we talk to the African American community, and in similar ways to other communities that have been put upon by our coercive, corrupt government over time. And hopefully, in terms of addressing that particular demographic, there's enough positive and things that we say, this is how we want to fix the injustice, where the property rights issue may or may not come up. As you said, it's illegal currently. We're arguing about rights, but as you know, as people running for office, we need to address the current situation. So whether or not somebody has the right to put a sign in their window excluding by a person's race is kind of a moot point. We don't really need to talk about that, nor will we, I'm sure, outside this show.
God, I hope not.
Unless asked, and then you and I might have different answers. But the point is, and this is kind of summing up, that the Libertarian Party and our ideology is one where we respect every single person, regardless of all those categories that have been foisted on people by identity politics and people that seek to divide and conquer for hundreds of years, are something that we stand against on basic principles from, I would argue, Jesus Christ, certainly since John Locke. And we're going to stand up for those things, and as candidates and as a party and as a show, we will do our best to bring a positive message and show people how these problems are solved forever and ever, based on principles but also practical solutions. So I thanks to my co-hosts tonight, Ron DePauw and Patrick Baird. We'll be back next Tuesday at the Free People Show, so be prepared for a show. We don't know what we're going to talk about next week, but we'll post that ahead of time. Thanks to everyone involved.